Have you ever wondered what truly happens inside your mind in that fragile moment between wakefulness and dream? That moment when every sound begins to fade, your breathing slows down, and the world around you softens like a thin veil of mist. It's not just sleep approaching. It's the moment your mind opens a secret door, leading you on a journey into the subconscious, where science and emotion meet, gently yet profoundly. Welcome to Dreamy Science, where every night is a voyage within the soul, where psychological truths don't just help you understand yourself better, but also help you fall asleep more easily, more deeply, and more peacefully. Here, we won't only talk about sleep, we'll talk about the mysteries of the mind, why fleeting memories resurface just before we drift into dreams, why soothing sounds can trigger the brain to release serotonin and melatonin, or why we always feel lighter when we let our thoughts float freely in the silence of the night. So close your eyes, loosen your shoulders, and let this voice guide you into a journey of sleeping with science, where every breath is a rhythm, every thought is a wave, and you are the one exploring the deep, wondrous world within yourself. Because sometimes, to truly understand the human mind, all we need to do is be still, listen, and dream. There's a quiet miracle most of us overlook. Emotions are not only created by thoughts, but also nourished by the world around us. A faint hint of lavender in the air can soften the heart, as if someone gently placed a warm hand on your shoulder. The sound of rain falling outside or the whisper of wind through the leaves sometimes makes the soul grow still, drawing us back to memories we haven't touched in years. Science calls this the sensory emotional effect, when the brain records and reacts to environmental cues even before we consciously register them. A small study from Yale University once showed that simply changing a room's lighting from cool white to warm yellow reduced participants' stress levels by nearly 40%. This means light doesn't just illuminate a space, it illuminates our emotions. Scent, sound, light all act as subtle signals that the mind perceives in its own mysterious way. Sometimes we think we're sad for a reason, when in truth it's only that the song playing happens to echo the same frequency as the ache in our heart. And sometimes, just the passing scent of coffee can take us back to that familiar cafe from long ago, on a misty morning when we were young and full of unshaped dreams. Those memories never disappear. They only sleep, waiting to be awakened by a melody, a color, or a breath. Emotion, after all, is the first language the brain ever learns. Before we knew how to speak, to think, or to reason, we already knew how to feel. Emotion is the body's way of whispering, "I am alive." Do you remember the last time you felt something so intensely? It could have been a moment of joy, a heartbreak that left you trembling, or an afternoon when the rain fell and your heart suddenly grew heavy. Strangely enough, the memories tied to strong emotions often last the longest. Our brain has a mechanism called emotional tagging. Whenever we experience something deeply emotional, the brain marks that moment as important, so it can be easily recalled later. That's why we remember vividly the first time we fell in love, the first rejection, or the moment we cried over a movie that seemed simple at first. Emotions don't just linger in memory, they leave imprints in the brain's very electrical currents. But emotion is a double-edged sword. Fear, for instance, can distort the way we perceive reality. When we're afraid, the amygdala becomes hyperactive, flooding the body with adrenaline, causing us to exaggerate risks and doubt everything around us. A passing shadow might seem like a threat. A neutral word might sound like an attack. Conversely, when we're happy, the world brightens. Colors become more vivid, sounds feel richer, even time seems to move faster. The brain releases dopamine and serotonin, neurotransmitters that make us feel safe and connected. So our memories are never truly objective. They are paintings colored by emotion. And each time we remember, we add another layer of color to the canvas. Perhaps that's why some memories seem more beautiful or more painful than they really were. But that's also what makes us human, capable of trembling, yearning, and loving. If you believe emotions live only in the mind, try this. Stand tall, lift your head, and smile, even just a little. Within seconds, something shifts. Your breathing deepens, your heartbeat steadies, and your mind feels lighter. Science has proven that the body and emotions are deeply intertwined. It's not only that feelings shape behavior can also shape feelings. A classic experiment at Stanford University found that participants who held a pen between their teeth, mimicking a smile, rated cartoons as funnier than those who didn't smile. Just that tiny movement of facial muscles was enough to trigger the release of dopamine, as if the body were tricking the mind into happiness. Similarly, posture can change one's entire mood. When we hunch forward, shoulders closed and breaths shallow, the brain reads it as a signal of sadness or defense. But when we open our shoulders, lift our head, and relax our neck, the brain interprets it as confidence and releases less cortisol. By changing our posture, we change the way the mind perceives us. Even handwriting is a doorway to emotion. When we write something down, whether sorrow or gratitude, a slow movement of the pen helps reduce beta brainwaves linked to anxiety and increase alpha waves linked to relaxation. That's why so many people feel lighter after journaling or writing a letter they'll never send. Writing is how the mind listens to itself. In today's world, where emotions often rush past us through screens, perhaps what we need isn't to control our feelings, but to listen to them more gently. Let your body feel, tremble, smile, because sometimes the body understands the mind best. Each of us lives within our own emotional universe. The same sunset may bring peace to one and loneliness to another. The same melody may draw tears from some and smiles from others. It's not that the world changes, it's that our minds tint it with the colors of our emotions. Psychologists call this emotional projection. It explains why, when we're happy, everyone seems kinder, and when we're sad, everything feels heavier, even if no one has done anything wrong. The human brain doesn't just see with the eyes, it sees through emotion. Emotion not only shapes how we perceive the world, but also how we act within it. A grateful person notices beauty more easily. An anxious one searches for proof of danger even where none exists. Emotion, in a sense, is the lens through which we read reality. Understanding this allows us to adjust the lens, not to deny sadness, but to look through it, to find what it's trying to tell us. Whenever anger arises, perhaps beneath it lies an old wound yet to heal. Whenever loneliness appears, perhaps it's an invitation to come home to ourselves. If the mind is a lake, then emotion is its ripple. The more we resist emotion, the stronger the wave. The more we let go, the calmer the water becomes. Understanding and accepting emotion doesn't mean drowning in it. It means learning to watch it pass, as we would watch clouds drift across the sky. And when we realize that every breath, every scent, every flicker of light is quietly speaking to our brain, we begin to live slower, softer, deeper. We stop blaming ourselves for sadness, stop rushing past joy. We let emotions come and go gently, like wind brushing against the skin. Because sometimes emotions don't need to be fixed, they just need to be heard. And in that listening, the mind discovers stillness, a place where awareness is no longer thought, but presence. Now that your mind has quieted, let us gently close the door of emotion and step into another realm where sleep touches memory, and the subconscious begins to weave dreams from the very emotions we've just journeyed through. Emotions settle like a gentle stream. You close your eyes, take a deep breath, and suddenly realize, within that silence, something else begins to speak. It is memory. The fragments of yesterday drift softly through the current of consciousness, blending into each steady breath. And in this very moment, when we release, when the night wraps itself around our weary bodies, the brain begins to work its hardest. Did you know that while we sleep, the brain never truly rests? In fact, it enters a phase called memory consolidation, a process in which fragments of the day, a word, a glance, a fleeting feeling are filtered, organized and stored into long-term memory. As we sleep, the hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, begins transferring data to the neocortex. It's as if the brain is backing up everything important before morning comes. Meaningful memories are recorded more deeply, while trivial ones fade away. That's why we often wake up feeling reset, as though the clutter in our minds has been neatly tidied overnight. A study from Harvard showed that people who slept well after learning a new skill retained it 40% better than those who stayed awake. Sleep isn't just rest, it's the final lesson of the day. And perhaps in the stillness of night, when reason steps aside, the subconscious becomes the truest storyteller, rearranging joys, sorrows, and the things we have yet to understand, so that by morning we may walk a little lighter. Have you ever dreamed of something you thought you'd forgotten? An old friend, a distant room, a faint and faded memory, returning softly like a wisp of mist. Scientists believe dreams are the brain's way of rehearsing emotional processing. During REM sleep, when the eyes dart beneath the lids and dreams grow vivid, the brain replays emotional experiences in a safer environment. It's like watching your own movie, but this time without fear or pressure. Through this process, negative emotions soften and memories become gentler upon waking. A study by Matthew Walker at the University of California, Berkeley, revealed that people who slept well after an upsetting event reacted less emotionally when recalling it the next day. Sleep somehow soothes the ache. Perhaps that's why after a night of tears, we often wake feeling lighter. Not because the sorrow vanished, but because the brain has carefully folded it into a deeper drawer where it no longer hurts as much. Dreams, strange and surreal as they may seem, are in truth one of nature's most profound forms of emotional medicine. Here's a fascinating discovery. Even when we believe we've slept well, our bodies respond positively, even if we haven't actually slept much. This phenomenon is called placebo sleep. In an experiment at the University of Colorado, researchers told two groups they had either slept very well or poorly, though both had slept the same amount. The results were striking. The group that believed they had slept well performed better cognitively, felt more positive, and had steadier heart rates. This reveals the remarkable power of belief and perception. When the brain believes the body has recovered, it actually triggers recovery. In other words, sometimes sleep doesn't begin with closed eyes. It begins with the belief that you are safe. So before drifting off, whisper softly to yourself, "I am resting. Everything is okay. My body knows how to heal." Even such gentle affirmations can calm the nervous system, bringing the body into balance, where sleep arrives naturally, like a breath in our noisy, information-drenched world. Our memories haven't grown weaker, they've become overloaded. The human brain can deeply focus on only one thing at a time, yet we constantly push it to multitask, listening to music, texting, scrolling, working all at once. Neuroscientific studies show that multitasking not only reduces efficiency, but can impair short-term memory by up to 40%. When the brain constantly switches between tasks, the hippocampus doesn't have enough time to record new information, like writing in sand while the wind blows. Everything fades before it's imprinted. That's why focusing on one thing at a time, even something simple, like sipping water, breathing deeply, or listening to the rain, not only calms the mind, but strengthens memory. This also explains why meditation and mindfulness can significantly enhance memory and awareness. When we are truly present, the brain not only remembers better, it feels life more fully. Sounds paradoxical, but the less we try to think, the more creative the brain becomes. Sleep, especially the hypnagogic state right before dreaming, is where consciousness and the subconscious meet, weaving new connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. Thomas Edison famously napped, holding a metal ball in his hand. As he drifted off, the ball would fall and wake him. And in that drowsy in-between state, his best ideas would emerge. Salvador Dali, Einstein, Beethoven all spoke of this half-dreaming moment where intuition and logic intertwine. Science calls it sleep-inspired creativity. When the mind relaxes, the default mode network, the system that links imagination, memory, and emotion, becomes most active. That's why after sleep, we often awaken with a sudden solution to a problem that stumped us all day. So sleep is never laziness. It's how the mind reassembles the world, refreshes thought, and gives birth to what has never existed before. Each night's sleep is a quiet dialogue between memory and imagination, between science and dream. Sleep isn't just the end of the day, it's a ritual of return. When we sleep, the brain practices letting go. When we dream, the subconscious practices acceptance. And when we wake, we learn how to begin again, lighter, calmer, renewed. If the day belongs to reason, then night belongs to emotion and healing. Both are essential, like inhaling and exhaling, like light and shadow. Not opposites, but harmony. So don't see sleep as wasted time. It's the most important moment of coming home to yourself. Each night as you lay down, imagine billions of tiny cells singing you to rest, whispering, "Thank you for living fully today." And now, with your mind rested, with memories folded neatly like old letters in a drawer, let us step into another realm where the mind is no longer just your own story, but a web of invisible threads connecting you to the world around you. Because, deep down, no one truly lives alone in their own mind. Every emotion, every memory, every dream carries the imprint of others. When we awaken from deep sleep, the world somehow feels softer. The familiar morning sounds, the tender light through the window, and the faces around us all seem subtly changed. Not because we've merely rested, but because the brain has just recalibrated the way we feel the world. And that world, vast as it may be, is woven from the invisible connections between human hearts. No one is born to live alone. From the very first moment of life, we instinctively seek another's gaze, warmth, and heartbeat. The human brain is designed to read emotions, tune into eye contact, and synchronize heart rhythms with others. Scientists call this phenomenon physiological synchrony, the biological alignment that happens when two people truly connect. When we speak with genuine empathy, our heartbeats, brainwaves, and even breathing patterns gradually fall into rhythm. That's why sitting beside someone who makes you feel safe naturally relaxes the body, with no words needed. A study from Princeton University showed that when a storyteller and a listener deeply resonate with each other, their brain waves begin to oscillate in sync, like two instruments playing the same melody. Empathy, therefore, isn't just an emotion, while it's a biological event. Each time we meet someone's eyes, each time we smile or truly listen, we're sending out a quiet signal. I see you. I'm here with you. Those subtle signals, small but powerful, form the very foundation of human happiness. Humans don't just live in their own world. They live within the gaze of others. Simply knowing we're being observed changes how we act. This is known as social facilitation, the social effect. Experiments show that when we sense we're being watched, the brain activates regions that regulate behavior. motivating us to perform better and act more carefully. But when that attention carries judgment or pressure, it can trigger anxiety, leading to more mistakes. Thus, the presence of others is both a mirror and a motivator, reflecting the fragility of our sense of self. And sometimes, a single kind look or warm word is enough to prompt the brain to release oxytocin, the bonding hormone that makes us feel we belong somewhere. It's no coincidence that a hug can slow the heartbeat, or that a gentle touch can bring tears to our eyes. This is the most primal language of connection, one that modern reason often forgets. There is another side to connection, the loss of self. In a crowd, we often act differently than we would alone. From the bystander effect to group conformity, the human brain reveals a quiet truth. We fear being isolated more than being wrong. In a classic study at Ash University, researchers found that when everyone around gave the same incorrect answer, over 70% of participants chose the wrong one too. Not because they didn't know the truth, but because they didn't want to stand out. The crowd can empower us, yet it can also silence the inner voice. Our subconscious constantly seeks acceptance, for deep within us lies an ancient equation. To be isolated once meant danger. Our ancestors survived through tribes, and our brains still carry that evolutionary memory today. But sometimes, true connection begins with the courage to stand with oneself first. If we merge into the crowd merely to be accepted, what we gain is only the shadow of belonging, not genuine connection. If you've ever spent time with someone who laughs easily, you've likely found yourself smiling more. And if you've been near someone who constantly complains, you've probably felt your own energy dim. That's not imagination, it's biology. The human brain contains a system called mirror neurons, cells that activate when we witness someone else's actions or emotions, allowing us to feel as though we're experiencing them ourselves. That's why when someone laughs, your brain signals joy. When someone cries, your heart literally tightens. Sociological research even shows that happiness and sadness can spread through 3 degrees of connection, meaning if you're happy, your close friend and their friend are statistically more likely to feel happier too. A single smile can travel farther than you imagine. This reveals a simple yet profound truth. We are constantly influenced by one another, and we, in turn, influence others. A kind word, a gentle gesture can subtly alter another person's biological rhythm, and in doing so, reshape the small world around us. Kindness is not just a moral choice, it's a chemical reaction. When we help someone, the brain releases oxytocin, dopamine and endorphins, creating a warm, light feeling scientists call the helper's high. The recipient of kindness experiences the same neurochemical response, lowering blood pressure, reducing stress, and strengthening trust. It's as if every act of kindness is a small dose of healing for both sides. Gratitude, too, seemingly simple, is one of the most powerful tools for reshaping the brain. MRI studies at Indiana University found that regular gratitude practice activates brain regions linked to satisfaction and emotional balance. Gratitude helps the brain see the world through a warmer lens. It doesn't erase sorrow, but it reminds us that even amid imperfection, there is much to cherish. When we give thanks for a calm morning, a passing smile, or simply for breathing, we teach the brain one vital message: I am safe. Everything is enough, and from that, the heart softens, the mind opens like a flower unfolding in the early mist. Perhaps the most fascinating truth in social psychology is this: we often see ourselves through others. Every reaction, every emotion we feel towards someone reveals something hidden within us. Discomfort may mirror fear. Admiration may conceal an unfulfilled desire. And once we understand this, we begin to look at others with softer eyes, because we realize no one simply passes through our lives. Each person is a mirror reflecting the parts of ourselves we've never dared to face. And through connection itself, we gradually come to understand who we are. Maybe that's why loneliness feels so exhausting. When we lose connection, we don't just lose others, we lose the mirror that helps us see ourselves. When you sit in the dark, believing no one understands you, remember there are millions of other minds thinking, feeling, and dreaming just like you. Each person is a small star, and in the night, we reflect one another's light, illuminating the path together. Human beings, in the end, do not exist in isolation. We are interwoven through countless threads of emotion, memory, and invisible influence. Every glance, every smile, every small gesture leaves a quiet ripple in someone else's mind. And it is these ripples that create what we call humanity. Now that we understand we do not live solely within our own minds, but also within the emotions and reflections others cast upon us, let us journey deeper into the misty realm of the subconscious, where the boundaries between reality and dream, logic and illusion grow thin as fog. There are strange moments indeed, when you sit still yet feel yourself drifting, when a piece of music stirs a memory of something that never happened. At that fragile border between waking and dreaming, another world exists, the world of the subconscious, where every forgotten memory, every buried emotion, and every faint image continues to whisper in the dark. Every thought you have, every action you take may seem consciously chosen, but in truth, more than 90% of it comes from the subconscious. The subconscious is the automatic system that regulates heartbeat, breathing, emotion, and countless responses beyond awareness. It is the brain's second mind working quietly, recording everything, even the moments we think we've forgotten. Neuroscientific studies reveal that the brain makes decisions 0.3 seconds before we consciously believe we've made them. In other words, the subconscious acts first, and consciousness merely justifies the choice afterward. Like a hidden conductor, it leads the orchestra without ever stepping into the light. The subconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symbols, emotions, and imagery. When you dream of falling, it may signify a fear of losing control. When you dream of water, it may represent emotions struggling to surface. Every dream symbol is the subconscious speaking in its ancient language, a code that humanity is still learning to decipher. Perhaps the most astonishing fact about the brain is this: it doesn't just record the world, creates it. Each time we see, hear, or touch, the brain takes only fragments of data and fills in the missing pieces with imagination. That's why hallucinations don't belong only to the unwell. They happen to everyone, every day. Remember the time you thought your phone vibrated when it hadn't? That was a tactile illusion, the brain expecting a familiar signal. Or when you glimpsed a shadow that looked like a person, only to find no one there. That was a brief visual hallucination, as the brain tried to complete an image using its face recognition bias. The brain despises emptiness. When information is missing, it fabricates the rest, not to deceive, but to preserve order and coherence. Reality, therefore, is not simply what we see, but what the brain allows us to see. And that is where the border between dream and truth begins to dissolve. Have you ever arrived somewhere completely new yet felt, inexplicably, that you've been there before? That fleeting, mysterious instant, when time seems to fold, is what we call déjà vu, meaning already seen. Scientists suggest it occurs when the brain misfires between memory systems. The short-term and long-term memory regions activate simultaneously, causing a new experience to be mistakenly tagged as an old one. It feels as if the present is echoing a past that never was. The brain whispering, "We've been here before." Some psychologists, however, see déjà vu differently, as the subconscious sending a sign that we're on the right path. In a universe of infinite possibilities, that sense of familiarity might be the soul recognizing something true. Whatever the explanation, déjà vu reminds us of one thing: that consciousness is only the surface. Beneath it lies memory, intuition, and a deep knowing that transcends reason, the quiet awareness that guides us through both dream and reality. Some people can realize they're dreaming and even control what happens within the dream. This phenomenon is known as lucid dreaming. In a lucid dream, the dreamer is aware that they're dreaming, yet remains able to think, create, and explore freely. EEG studies show that during lucid dreaming, the prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain linked to logic and awareness, lights up again, as if the mind has woken up while the body continues to sleep. It is one of those rare moments where consciousness and the subconscious meet. In this state, you can fly, talk to yourself, or even heal hidden fears. Some dream therapists use lucid dreaming to help patients confront recurring nightmares. For once they realize they're dreaming, the fear of losing control disappears. Lucid dreaming is the most beautiful dialogue between two halves of the mind, one the dreamer, the other the observer. And in the moment they coexist, we realize that the inner and outer worlds are never separate. They are simply two sides of the same dream called reality. Some people describe moments, in accidents, illness, or deep meditation, when they feel themselves floating outside their bodies, watching their own form from above. This is known as an out-of-body experience, OBE. Science explains it as a disruption in the temporoparietal junction, the region of the brain that integrates body position and spatial awareness. When this area is stimulated, the brain momentarily loses track of where the body is, creating a sense of separation between self and flesh. But many believe these moments are more than neurological misfires. They are expansions of consciousness, glimpses beyond the limits of being human. Whether viewed through science or spirituality, such experiences reveal one truth: the human mind is far wider than we imagine. And perhaps in the instant we step outside our body, we finally feel what it truly means to be alive. Not all hallucinations are frightening. Sometimes they are the mind's way of saying what we cannot admit aloud. Some people hear their name called in silence, see a loved one who has passed, or catch the familiar scent of someone long gone. This isn't always illness. It may be longing, nostalgia, or an unhealed ache. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between real and imagined. It only knows what makes us feel. So, to protect us, it may create what the heart needs: a comforting voice, an imagined touch, a familiar image. Science calls this hallucination. But through the eyes of the soul, it may simply be the mind's final act of tenderness toward itself. Between brilliance and madness lies a delicate boundary, and that boundary is the ability to communicate with the subconscious. The truly creative, from Van Gogh and Dali to Tesla, often spoke of images, sounds, or insights that appeared unbidden in their minds. Science calls this creative hallucination, a controlled form of imagination through which the brain constructs new ideas. The subconscious is the wellspring of creativity, but without awareness we can easily drown in its chaos. The only difference between the visionary and the lost is that the visionary knows how to return. It's like diving deep into the ocean. You may discover wonders, but you must remember to surface and breathe, for within the infinite depths of the subconscious, what is most beautiful can also become most terrifying if we forget where the light is. The subconscious never sleeps. Even when you believe you're silent, it is still telling stories through dreams, intuitions, and passing thoughts. It doesn't speak in words, but in feeling. And if you listen long enough, you'll realize every answer you seek outside already lives within. Perhaps that's what Freud meant when he called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. Each night, your subconscious continues to weave your story, a story only you can understand if you are patient enough to listen. And now, as we step beyond the misty doors of the subconscious, having seen how the brain shapes illusion, how dreams intertwine with waking life, we reach the final part of this journey. The realm where the brain not only reacts, but learns, adapts, and evolves. Because the mind is not a sealed box, but a living garden, ever-changing, ever-growing, even within the dreams you have yet to remember. When we emerge from the realm of illusion, the feeling lingers like dew upon skin, like the echo of a long, gentle melody. The dream fades, yet the brain continues its quiet work, learning, recording, rewriting itself, for every experience, every emotion, every thought leaves a faint trace upon the neural map. And from those traces, the brain grows. For much of the 20th century, people believed the human brain could not regenerate, that once a neuron died, everything ended there. But modern science has proven the opposite. The brain adapts and renews itself with every rhythm of life, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. Each time we learn something new, try a different experience, or simply change a habit, the brain forges fresh pathways between neurons. It's as though within the dense forest of the mind, you carve a new trail, and each return makes it broader and clearer. Even in injury, the brain can rewire itself. Healthy regions take over the functions of the damaged ones, a process called remapping. This shows that the brain doesn't just live, it endures. It transforms each day, just as we do, in its quiet effort to restore balance. Every time you learn something, no matter how small, the brain doesn't merely store information, it builds structure. A study from the University of London found that taxi drivers' hippocampi were larger than average, due to the constant mental mapping of complex city routes. Similarly, when we learn music, art, or languages, the brain doesn't distinguish between logic and creativity. Any act of focus, patience, or imagination strengthens it. Remarkably, even imagining a practice session activates the same neural circuits as actually performing the task. That's why athletes often train in their minds before competing. The brain doesn't need physical action to learn, only the belief that it's happening. The brain learns from the world, but it also learns from what we believe about the world. So when you change your thinking, you're literally changing the physical structure of your brain. When you meditate, when your breath slows and your mind releases, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for anxiety and self-judgment, begins to rest. At the same time, the insular and anterior cingulate cortex, centers of compassion and empathy, become more active. Brain. Imaging studies show that just 15 minutes of daily meditation for 8 weeks significantly increases gray matter density in regions that regulate emotion. Once again, the brain proves that peace is not a state, but a skill. Each time you sit still, inhale, and exhale, your brain learns acceptance instead of resistance. With every breath, it quietly records the lesson. It's okay. I can be here with myself and still be safe. Gradually, the networks of tension shrink and a softer, stronger nervous system takes shape. That is the plasticity of the soul. The brain doesn't just adapt to nature, it learns to live with technology. Today, humans can control computers with brain waves, allowing paralyzed individuals to move prosthetic limbs by thought. Devices like Neuralink and BrainGate are ushering in an era where mind and machine directly connect. But the true wonder lies here. The brain adapts to such technology within days. When electrodes are implanted, the brain soon begins treating robotic limbs as its own, sending signals as if they were real arms. This is living proof that our sense of self is not fixed. The body has limits, but the mind does not. Each innovation doesn't just expand the outer world, it expands the very definition of being human. Whether you're tired, sad, or lost, remember, your brain is still changing every second. Every time you choose kindness over anger, a deep breath over reaction, love over fear. Your brain records a new pathway. Day by day, you are reprogramming yourself. The brain doesn't recognize age. It only knows repetition. Feed it positive thoughts, beautiful images, peaceful experiences, goody, and it will bloom, radiant, like a garden nourished by light. Every night as you sleep, the brain doesn't simply rest. It resets the system, pruning weak connections, strengthening what matters, and making space for the new. This process, called synaptic pruning, is how the brain maintains clarity and flexibility. It's like a garden, without pruning, branches tangle. Sleep is the gentle gardener, tending each neuron so you awaken renewed. That's why every morning, you are no longer the same person you were yesterday. The brain has changed, and so have you. From emotion to memory, from dreams to the subconscious, everything converges here. The place where the brain stops merely reacting and begins telling the story. Each neuron is a musical note, and billions of them together compose the symphony of life. When you laugh, when you cry, when you dream, or when you sit quietly with your breath, your brain continues to weave that symphony, note by note, rhythm by rhythm. And the miracle is this: you are both the conductor and the audience of your own mind. Now that we've walked this entire path, from emotion to perception, from memory to dreams, from the subconscious to the brain's infinite adaptability, we uncover a truth both simple and profound. The mind is not something to control, but something to understand. The brain, sleep, emotion, memory, they are companions, not conquests. They are not here to be mastered, but to be listened to and grown with. This journey doesn't end here. It continues every night, in every thought, in every breath you take. Because each time you close your eyes, within you, billions of neural lights flicker like tiny stars, quietly telling the story of who you are, of life, awareness, and the limitless potential of the human mind. If you're still awake, close your eyes once more and feel that you are not merely falling asleep, but being reborn within your own dream. Wishing you, T, a peaceful sleep, a quiet mind, and a beautiful journey through the universe of stars within.